What's going on in Kyiv and in Budapest is not just a diplomatic spat, but a growing rift within the European family. And Hungary, a founding member of the post-Soviet European order, and Ukraine, a state fighting for survival and legitimacy, are at loggerheads. The current scandal unfolding between Budapest and Kyiv, complete with spy allegations, deported diplomats, and propaganda blitzes, is more than a footnote in Europe's crisis logbook. It's a symptom of Hungary's increasing estrangement from the European project and a window into the transactional, even cynical use of minority rights as a political cudgel. On May the 12th, yesterday, high-level talks were meant to take place between Ukraine and Hungary in Huzarot to discuss the status and the rights of ethnic Hungarians in Ukraine's Zakarpattia region. Kyiv had come prepared to address 11 specific Hungarian demands concerning education, language rights, and cultural autonomy. But Hungary abruptly pulled out, citing security concerns linked to the alleged unmasking of a Hungarian spy ring in western Ukraine. This wasn't mere diplomatic discourtesy, it was theatre, calculated perhaps to stall uncomfortable negotiations and reframe the narrative on Viktor Orban's terms. And according to the Security Service of Ukraine, 2 former Ukrainian soldiers have been recruited by Hungarian military intelligence to collect sensitive information, troop locations, air defence infrastructure, and, tellingly, local public sentiment regarding a hypothetical Hungarian incursion. One suspect allegedly received cash and equipment across the border in Hungary, and Kyiv calls it treason and Budapest calls it slander. Hungary responded with cinematic bravado. In Budapest, a Ukrainian citizen was tackled to the pavement and deported for alleged espionage himself. The footage, complete with black-clad officers, moody lighting and ominous narration, aired on state media platforms accusing the Ukrainian mafia of being Europe's latest threat. Well, let's be frank, this isn't about 2 spies, it's about a referendum. Orban's government is circulating ballot papers asking Hungarians whether they support Ukraine's accession to the EU, a neutral question perhaps, but the campaign surrounding it is anything but. Posters of Zelensky, Ursula von der Leyen, Manfred Weber loom over Hungarian towns with warnings about disease, job losses, and criminal chaos. The message, a vote for Ukraine, is a vote against Hungary. And this is familiar tactics, just as Orban once blamed George Soros for migration, Brussels for economic decline, and LGBTQ plus citizens for social decay. He now casts Ukraine as the existential threat. It's nationalism and paranoia, and it pays well to the base. Who, I wonder, having travelled not so long ago across Ukraine by car, who does Viktor Orban blame for the state of the roads in Hungary? Because they're dreadful. Potholes everywhere. Bump, bump, bump. Orban is facing his most serious political threat in years. Opposition leader Peter Magyar's Tisza party is surging, and polls suggest that over half of Hungarians support Ukraine's EU bid, an inconvenient truth that has rattled Fidesz. So what does Orban do? He doesn't contest the data, he challenges the story, or he changes the story. The spy scandal serves 3 completely different purposes. It delegitimizes the Ukrainian state as duplicitous and dangerous. It reframes Orban as the last bulwark against EU subservience. And it entangles the opposition by implying that they're in bed with foreign agents. A global row becomes a domestic weapon. The bigger picture, however, is Hungary's increasing isolation within the European Union. Hungary has blocked sanctions on Russia, it's refused military aid to Ukraine, and is now threatening to veto the renewal of the EU sanctions regime entirely. Brussels is increasingly considered using Article 7, the so-called nuclear option, to suspend Hungary's voting rights. But unanimity is required. Poland used to offer Hungary cover. Now, that role may fall to Slovakia's Robert Fico, who just visited Moscow. Pressure is building. Hungary has already lost access to billions in EU funds because of its democratic backsliding. Meanwhile, Orban is courting Netanyahu and withdrawing from the International Criminal Court, claiming global institutions are just imperial tools. And then there's history. Transcarpathia, now in western Ukraine, was once part of Greater Hungary, and some in Fidesz orbit tore with the idea of reclaiming it, or at least securing special rights for Hungarians there. The government issues passports, sets village clocks to Budapest time, and floods the region with state-sponsored media. This is not protection of a diaspora, it's a political effort irradiating the regime, the area, with propaganda. It's in a modern. It's a modern response. The spy scandal is not a glitch in Hungarian-Ukrainian relations. It's a carefully manufactured rupture. And what began as a conversation about minority rights has morphed into a proxy war for influence, for identity, for EU direction. And Hungary under Orban is becoming Europe's spoiler state, rhetorically loyal to NATO, practically deferential to Moscow, ideologically committed to a vision of sovereignty that leaves no room for solidarity. And the question is no longer whether Viktor Orban is drifting from the European project. The question is how far the rest of Europe is prepared to follow and how much license the rest of Europe is prepared to give to Viktor Orban and his confederates, whether in Hungary itself or across the border. How do you deal with this problem? I think it's an interesting problem and something that needs flagging up significantly more.